Today's daf Be'ez Hashem is Masechta Avodah Zarah daf Ayin Beis number 72, and we will begin from a few lines from daf Aleph Ayin Aleph Amid Beis, 4 lines from the bottom. We are discussing over here and finishing up this discussion with regards to the opinion of a Maimer who said that a guy could acquire via lifting an object. In other words, even if he didn't pay for it, the fact that he lifts an object, he does mashicha, this would enable him to acquire something. And therefore, that was the opinion of a maimer. It's not only if a guy pays for something, but actually, if he even if he didn't pay for it, just by lifting it, it becomes his. However, Rav Ashi disagreed. Rav Ashi says the only way a goy could acquire something is only if he paid for it. So Tashma, come in here. The Amar Rab Chia bar Abba Amar Rab Yochanan. Rab Chia bar Abba was said in the name of Yochim. Ben Neyach Nereg al Pachos Meshava Pruta. A goy is killed without any warning. I mean, if he just steals less than a shava pruta from a Jew, he steals less than a penny from a Jew. So then he is gets killed. He's the chi of misa. We know that if a guy violates this sheva mitzvahs b'nei noach, and one of the mitzvahs is thou shalt not steal. So if he violates that, he gets killed. V'loy nitein lihi shavoin, and it's not he doesn't have to return it. In other words, since he steals less than a shava pruta from a Jew, the Jew was Michael him. So the Jew was Michael him, forgave him. So he doesn't have to return it, but he gets killed for that. Now, the Gemara understands now that in order for the guy to be considered stealing, he would have to actually acquire that less than a shava pruta. So, but and therefore he acquired it because he's not causing a loss and he's not gaining something because it's less than a shava pruta. So, in order for him to violate the violation of thou shalt not steal, he has to be able to acquire it. Now, how did he acquire this thing that's less than a shava pruta? Let's say he stole a Q-tip. So it's less than a shava pruta. So the amrit, if you're going to say mashicha b'goy einakay, if you can say that when a goy lifts something, he does not acquire it. Amai neharag, why would you kill the guy for stealing a Q-tip? So he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't acquire anything. And says the Gemara, you're right. He didn't acquire it mishum detzari Yisrael because he caused pain for a Jewish person that he's now missing his Q-tip. So therefore, that's why the Ben Noach gets killed, even if he didn't acquire it. So says the Gemara, "Omai lo niten lihi shavim." What does he mean? He doesn't not given over to be returned. De'ena b'taris hi shavim. He does not have to return it because the Jew forgave him for it. So that's what it means. If that's the case, if you're going to say like that, Amos say for, let's say the end of the brisa. If the friend of the guy stole the Q-tip from the first guy, so the first guy stole it from a Jew, so he gets killed because he stole and caused pain to a Jew. But the second guy steals it from the first guy, neragala. Well, he gets also killed. So wait a second, and obviously he didn't acquire it. If you're going to say that the reason why the first guy gets killed because he caused pain to a Jew, that's understandable. But the second story is that one guy stole from another guy less than a shav pruta. My Ovid, what did he do wrong? He didn't cause pain to a Jew and he didn't acquire anything. Alashmami, no, from here you see that what? Mashicha b'goy koina. When a guy lifts something, he acquires it. And therefore, when the second guy steals the Q-tip from the first guy, even though it's less than a shava pruta, he acquired it. He did the act of stealing. And therefore, the second guy gets killed. Shmamino, we see this proof, like Ameimer said, that a guy, maybe he could acquire things with money, but he could also acquire something just by lifting it or doing mashicha, drawing it to himself, and he acquires an item. Says the Gemara a story. Ahu Gavra, there was this person, the Amalei Lechavre, that told his friend, if I'm going to sell you my property, I'm going to sell it to you. I mean, he committed verbally that he's going to sell it to his friend, his property. And they made a kinyan to make it strong that he's going to follow through on his words. So he didn't, when he's ready to sell it, he's going to sell it to his friend. What happened? Ozil Zabna Le'ina Shachrina, he ended up selling it to somebody else. Rav Yosef said that sale is invalid. Konakama, the first guy sold it because he committed with a kinyan that he's going to sell it to the first person. Amalei Abaya. So Abaya said, V'holoi Pasak. But he didn't make up a price what he's going to sell the property for. And since he didn't make up a price, although he made a kinyan with the first person, it wasn't a total commitment. And without making up a price, even if you have a kinyan, it's not valid. It's not a valid kinyan. You need, in order for an acquisition to happen, you need a valid acquisition, a method of acquisition, plus a determined price. Where do you see this concept? That if you don't make up a price, you didn't acquire it. The Tanan, we learned in our Mishnah. Person sells wine, his wine, a Jewish wine to a goy. Now, if the goy doesn't acquire it and he's holding on to the Jewish wine, then he makes it yayin esach. So pasak, if they made up a price, achloi modad, before he measured it out. So, and then he measured it out. So they made up a price. Then the goy made a mashicha kinyan. He measured it out. The yid poured the wine from his barrel into the goy's container, or the Jewish, the container that you can measure out a gallon. So then dam of mutarin. Then the money is permitted because the goy, when he lifted the wine in the container that he's purchasing, let's say a gallon, and he knows the price he's going to pay for it. So he just owes the money. So he acquired it prior to it becoming Gayan Esach. And then, because after it's in his container, he just sticks his finger into it and makes it Yayin Esach. Nevertheless, he acquired it. So it was Yayin Esach. It was Yayin Esach after it was in the Goy's domain, possession, and therefore the Jew is allowed to receive the money. Modad actually posek, but let's say he made the Meshicha. He acquired it, but he didn't make up a price. So the Goy lifted the container of the gallon, but he doesn't know what he's going to pay for it. And then he, messes around with the wine. So he made the wine Yayin Esach, and now they make up a price. So it was Jew's Yayin Esach. And the Jew, when he sells Yayin Esach, it doesn't work. Dama, and the Jew is not allowed to accept that money anymore because a Jew cannot sell Yayin Esach. A Jew who has a Avodah Zarah or Yayin Esach, he cannot sell it because when he sells it, the money becomes Asar. So we see from there that if you don't make up a price, even though you made a actual kinyan, it's not a valid kinyan. So that's the proof, the same idea, that if the guy, by our case, where a person committed that he was going to sell to his friend, since they didn't make up a price, even though they made a kinyan, he doesn't have to follow through on his commitment to sell to his friend. So the Gemara says, the Gemara, skip this, can I have a lot? The Gemara says, could be it's very different. Could be, by Yayin Esach, we say that it's not a good kinyan if you didn't make a price. So that's why the Jew is not allowed to accept the money. But normally we would say it is a good kinyan even if you didn't make up a price. That's what the Gemara says. It's no proof because you bring a raya from our Mishnah. Our Mishnah is Yayin Esach. Yayin Esach has its own story, and we always go strict with Yayin Esach. The Kashma, come in here. Amar Rabbi Iva Baravin said, Uvda Hava Bei Rav Chizda. There was a similar story in the court of Rav Chizda. In other words, a person committed with a kinyan to sell to his friend. They didn't make up a price, and then he sold it to somebody else. So Rav Chizda didn't know what to do. So Rav Chizda Bei Rav Huna. Rav Chizda went to Rav Huna. Rav Huna solved the dilemma from the following. Today we learned in Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Moshach Chamarav or Payalav. A person he wants to buy workers who are holding on to fruits and the donkeys that are holding on to fruits. And they belong to somebody else, right? And he wants to buy those fruits that are on the donkeys, that are on the workers. So he brought those workers and the donkeys, he brought it to his house. So, but they didn't make up, let's say, so we're bringing it into your house, that's a Maisa Kinyan. Bein Pasach Acheloi Modad, Bein Modad Acheloi Pasach, whether you made up a price before you brought it into the house, whether you measured them out before you made up a price, Loikana, you're not acquiring it. Ushneim Yechoilim Lachsa Behem, and they both could back out of it. So we could both could back out from it. Pirkan, if you took them off, and you brought it into your house. So then there's a difference. Pasak, if you made up a price, ad shaloi madad before you measured it out, ein shneim yochel behem. You can't retract because by perkon, by taking it off the worker's shoulder and you brought it into your house. Your house is an acquisition, and you made and you know how much you're going to pay from all those fruits. So let's say you plan to take from that box of fruit a pound of fruits, and you know how much you're going to pay for those pounds of fruits. So then, once you made up the price and you brought the fruits into your house, so then no backsies. The seller and the purchaser cannot back out. But what happens? You brought the fruits into your house. So you did a kinyan. Modad ad shaloi pasak behen, but you measured it out, and now you have the pound fruit. It's in your house. You brought it into your house from the worker. You take the box of fruit that the worker was carrying, you carried it into your house, you put it into a pound bag, now you know you have a pound, but you didn't make up a price. But it's in your house, and you didn't make up a price. The Mishnah says, Shneim Yochoilin Lachsabhem, they both can retract. Why? You made a kinyan, you brought it into your house, but since you did not make up the price, you can retract it. So therefore, same thing with the story over here. Person committed with a kinyan that he's going to sell his property to somebody, but since he didn't make up a price, the kinyan is invalid. It's not a commitment. So he could sell it to somebody else. Says the Gemara, Hu Gavra, there was this person, the Amalei Lechavre, he says to his friends, if I'm going to sell my property, and he made up a price, I'm going to sell it to you with 100 zuz. So he agreed that he's going to sell it for a certain price, and he made a kinyan that he's going to sell it to that person. So there's no way out of that, right? You would think. But he ended up selling it to somebody else, but maybe with 120. Rav Kahana said, Kanakama, the first one got it because there was a kinyan there and there was a set price. So the first one, the second, even if you sold it to somebody else for 120, it's invalid. Maskif lo Rav Yaakov and Harpakoid, Rav Yaakov and Harpakoid says, Hai Zuzi Anasuhu. Really, you could look at it this way, that the person never had an intention to sell it. So, but somebody, made him an offer he can't refuse, so he was forced into selling it. So by selling it to the second person, it's not really he's selling it, he's forced into selling it. So let us say that he's allowed to sell it to the second person. The Hilchas of the Gemara says, like Rav Yaakov HaPakoid said, that although he committed with a commitment and a kinyan that he's going to sell it for 100 zuz, he made up the price, he's going to sell it to somebody. If somebody offered him a lot more money for the same property, so then Rabbi Yaakov Mahar Pokoid says that you can sell it to that other person. It's a valid sale. Amalei, if a person said, Kiddushaim Bitlosa, I'm selling this property, right? I'm going to sell it to you based on the price that 3 people will estimate what it's worth. So, Afilim Mitrei Migoy Tlasa, even if 2 agree on a price, the 3 don't say the same price. 2 say one price, and the third one says a different price. You go after the 2, and he has to follow through selling it based on the price the 2 people give. You go after Rav, because by saying Kiddushaim Betlasa, he's basically saying these 3 people will be like a bezdin, and by bezdin you always go after the Rav. So you don't need all of them to agree on one price. Even if 2 agree on one price and the third one differs, he'll be forced to sell it based on the price that the two people agreed upon. But if he says, I want three people to agree on one price, until you have three people agreeing on one price. And if he says, I want it estimated by four people, until four people agree on one price. Because there's no such a thing of a bezdin of four. So when he said, I want it estimated by four appraisers, it means that four appraisers have to agree on one price. Even if he said, certainly if he said, I want four people, if he said it outright, that I want four people to agree on one price, then it's not a valid sale until four people agree on that one price. If he said, I want three people to estimate it, and three people estimated and gave an appraisal price. Let's say they all agreed on one price. Okay, so you would think that the person has to sell on that price that these three people agreed upon, because that was the commitment. But the seller said, I want three other people to estimate the price. The first three, they're not good appraisers. Papa Dinu Demakov has a right to hold up the sale until he gets his three people to appraise the property. Maskiflar of Hunbraid Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Huda Brei Yeshua asked Rav Papa, how do you know that the seller's appraisers are more sophisticated or more professional than the first appraisers? So therefore, he has no right to hold up the sale. If three appraisers came and estimated the price of the property, the seller can't say, "Oh, I want another three different people." The halacha is like Rabbi Huna Rebbe Bishua, that he can hold up this, that he cannot hold up the sale. Now, we're going to learn like this. So you need the pictures over here. So the Mishnah says, not if a person took a funnel and poured it into the to the container belonging to a goy, the chazad and then he uses the funnel for another Jewish to pour wine to a Jewish person. And yesh bo yakavas yain aser. If there's some wine left over in the funnel, so then it's aser. In other words, here's the picture. A Jew is selling kosher wine, right? Here's the picture. A Jew is selling kosher wine to a goy, right? Over here is the goy. This goy's, once it reaches here, the bottom glass, it's ready yain esach. Presumably, let's say the goy had his own wine in this glass, so the wine here is all yain esach. Min b'minoi, it's aser. The Gemara, let's learn like the simple way to learn that once you have a stream connects to the wine in the funnel, then the wine in the funnel is now yayin nesach, because the stream is connecting the wine from the glass of the goy to the funnel. So if you're going to reuse this funnel to pour wine to a Jewish person, this wine is going to come into the Jewish glass and is going to aser his wine. So if you sell it to a guy and you use a funnel, then you can't resell wine to another Jew. Now that's the Mishnah, because Pashut, the Mishnah, the simple way to learn the Mishnah is that a stream is a connection. Hama arek mikliel kliel esheir mimenu mutov esheir l'soichei asar. So if you're going to, let's go to the picture. The next thing is you're pouring from one glass. The Jewish guy is pouring from one glass to the guy's glass. So the Mishnah says that this needs a beer, because you're connecting. So let's say the Mishnah says whatever reaches the bottom glass is yayin esach, and even this is yayin esach. But whatever in the top glass is not yayin esach. So this is the goy's glass. The bottom is the goy's glass. The top is the Jew's glass. And the Mishnah says that the bottom glass is yayin esach. The stream would be yayin esach, but the top glass is not yayin esach. So how do you learn pshat? So the Gemara is going to explain later that it's talking about you interrupted the stream. As it's falling, you stop the stream. So the stream just connected this to this, but it didn't connect anything to the top glass. So that's why the Mishnah says, back into the Mishnah, Esheir memena, the glass that you're pouring from is mutter, is not yayin esach. The glass that you're pouring into, which belongs to the guy, aser is aser. Says the Gemara, Tanan Hasam, we learned over there, in Masechta Taharas. If you want to connect waters to each other, a nitzach katafras, nitzach is a stream, but katafras is water on an incline. And water that's moist, but not moist enough that if you touch it, it would make you be able to make something else wet. Anyway, all these things, ein chibar is not considered a connection, loy l'tumah v'loy tahara, not for tumah tahara. For example, let's use tahara. Let's say a mikvah is less than 40 saw, right? And you want to connect it with a stream that's connected to a good mikvah. So then it's not a connection. It's not a good connection because the stream doesn't connect it. In order for something to be connected, it has to have that hole that connects the two mikvahs together. That's something different. But here, if it's just a stream coming in from a mikvah that's elevated, it will not connect. So if you have one mikveh that's up here and another mikveh down here, and there's a stream that connects one mikveh to the other mikveh, if the bottom mikveh does not have 40 saw, it's not kosher. But a puddle of water that just breaks up through the earth, let's say there's a split in the earth and there's a puddle of water, that makes a good connection. So Amar Rav Huna said, from this Mishnah, you could make you can make an inference, or not from this Mishnah. Amar Rav Huna said, nitzik a stream, the ketafas although a stream doesn't connect two mikvahs, but it will connect regarding yayin nesach, as we see in our Mishnah. A nitzuk will connect as you see in the Mishnah, that the nitzuk, the stream, is connected to the wine in the funnel, and that's why the wine in the funnel becomes aser. Because the yayin nesach, although it's not a connection with mikvahs, it's a connection with regarding the halach of yayin nesach. Amalei Rav Nachman Rav Huna. Rav Nachman said, Rav Huna, how do you know it? Because you learned in the Mishnah. The Mishnah says regarding mikvahs and taharas, we don't consider it a connection. The tumah regarding tumah and tahara, it's not a connection. But regarding yayin nesach, it is considered a good connection. If that's your proof, let's take a look at the end of the brisa. An incline. So we see from there that a puddle is a connection for Tumah and Tahara, but you can tell me that your inference from the Mishnah is for Tumah and Tahara, it's a good chibur, but Yayin Nesach and Ashboirin, which is the best type of puddle of water, is not a connection for Yayin Nesach. It means if you have a puddle of Yayin Nesach and you have a puddle of wine, and you have two yayin nesachs on the, you have one yayin nesach on one side and kosher wine on the other side, the puddle will not connect the two. That's impossible to say. You don't see anything from the Mishnah. But the bottom line, the point over here is that Rav Huna said a stream is a good connection regarding yayin nesach. Apparently, Rav Huna, that's the way he learned our Mishnah. Tanan, we learned in our Mishnah, not to less a mashpech model of sex shel nachri, chazan model of sex shel Yisrael. If you use the funnel for the goyisha to pour into the goyisha container, and then a goyisha glass, and then you use it for a Jewish glass, you're pouring wine for a Jew. So we go to Amid Beis. Im yesh b'yakavas yain. If there's some little drops of wine into the funnel, aser, it's aser. So it says the Gemara, and ha kavas mayim b'may mitzri. How does the little wine that remains in the funnel, how did it become aser? Because even though this picture is not exactly, when you poured it into the funnel, let's assume that you stopped, and it just remained in the funnel, and then it subsequently went into the goyisha glass, and some wine remained in this funnel. So how did this wine in this funnel, how did this right over here where I'm circling it, how did it become Yayin Nesach? How did it become Yayin Nesach? The answer is because the stream connected it. So that's it. La benitzach. Shema Mino, would you say over here is nitzach chibar? The nitzach is a chibar. And says the Gemara, Tan Rab Chia, shepachasata itzluchusai. Talking about the funnel went into the glass, and the liquid in the glass, the wine in the glass, came above the funnel. That's what you learn, shot. It's not because there's a stream. There's the wine in the glass, rose up to the level of the funnel. But if you didn't have that, if the wine in the glass did not rise up, what would be the din? Loy. Then the wine in the funnel would not be yain esach. So tifsha dinitza ken a chibur. So then why don't you say from here a stream is not a chibur? So the Gemara says, loy, it's not true. B'chas loy, you can't prove it. B'chas tifshat lach. The aser. If the water level rose up, of course, the funnel, whatever is in the funnel is aser. Nitzik tiboya, but whatever we did with the stream, we don't know. We don't know if a stream is a connection. So let's see from the Sefer of the Mishnah. Tashma, Hamar Meklili Kli, Eshmar Men Memuta, Hod Beni Aser. The Mishnah says, Shema Minon it's a chibur. The Mishnah seems to imply that if you pour from one glass to another, the top one is still yain kosher, but whatever is the stream is aser. Shema Mina. So from here you can see it's a chibur, that a stream is connected. Says the Gemara Taimech, according to your reasoning, the top glass is the bottom glass is aser. But the stream itself is mutter. You can't prove it from here. So from this Mishnah, Mishnah is not discussing the stream. The Mishnah is just discussing the bottom glass, aser, top glass, mutter. I'm not sure about the stream. This is a question. The Mishnah is not definitive on regards to the stream. Tashma, come in here. If someone takes a barrel and pours it into a pit, takes a barrel that has wine, kosher wine, and you're pouring it into a pit. Kiluach, the stream, hayorid misfas chavius lamata, the stream that's coming out of the barrel, aser is aser. I'm assuming the bar has yain esech in there, so the stream is aser. So we see that stream, the stream is a connection. Tirgama Rav Sheshis answered, the goy hama'ara. It's talking about the goy lifted up the barrel, and he is pouring it. The asu mekoiche, because he's doing it. So the stream becomes asa, whatever is in the stream. Again, how would the stream make a difference? Let's say while the goy is pouring it, the Jew takes a cup and takes wine from that stream, it's already yayin esach, even before it reaches the bottom of the pit. Says the Gemara, even goy hama'ara, if the goy is pouring it, afilu gavod obviously nama mitzvah, soon be everything left in the barrel should also be aser. If the goy is pouring the barrel into a pit, so then not only should the stream coming out of the barrel is aser, but whatever remaining in the barrel should also be aser. And says the Gemara, koyach the goy midrabanu, that whatever comes because of the force of a goy is only Isser D'Rabbanan, because the goy is not actually touching the wine. So therefore, the stream that comes out, that's already outside the barrel, goes a Rabbanan. The Rabbanan said that's Asr. But what's remaining inside the barrel, like goes a Rabbanan, the Rabbanan did not say that it's Asr. So the Gemara is not definitive if a stream is a connection. Rav Chinna says to those people who are selling wine, Ki kalisa chamra begoyim, when you sell wine to goyim, katvi, break off the stream. Inami naptse naputse, throw the wine into their containers. Because if you're going to have a stream that connects to the wine where it's coming from, a total uninterrupted stream, it's going to asa your wine. So if Chizda holds, the stream is a connection. Amalahu Rava, so Rava said, Lahani Shapuchi, to those that are pouring wine, When you're pouring wine from the barrels, don't let the goy help you. Maybe you'll forget and let him hold the barrel. It's going to come from his strength, his force. It's going to asa the wine. Says the Gemara, a story. Hahu Gabra, there was this person. The asik chamra begishtu bas kishta. He siphoned off wine. This would be the picture. He siphoned off wine from a barrel using a big tube and a small tube. Somehow the guy is holding, the guy with the hat is the guy, is holding the tube, but they're siphoning from a barrel. So, and the guy came, Anach Yade Agishti, put his hand on the large tube. So by holding on to this large tube, he's making ayin esach, shaking it around. Asri Rav L'Kul Charma. So Rava asr all the wine that will end up into from the barrel and everything like that. All the wine in the barrel is asr. Amalei Rav Papa the Rava. So Rav Papa said to Rava, Amalei Rav Adabar Matna Rava. So Rav Abba Masna said to Rava, Amalei Ravina Rava B'mai. How are you answering it? Benitzuk, because the stream is connected. Shamet minei nitzuk chiber, where you're going to say because this is a stream, it's a connection. Here you have a stream that's connected, and the goy is holding on to the big tube. So so Rava holds that the nitzuk is a connection, and therefore it connects to all the wine in the barrel, and therefore everything in the barrel is usher. So the Gemara says, no, Shana Hasam the Kulichama Agishta Bagishta Gara. Since all this wine is through the force of physics, is going to come out of the barrel, it's as if the goy touched all the wine in the barrel. You see, when a goy is holding the barrel, when you're holding the barrel, Jew is holding the barrel, and just a little bit of the nitzak stream is coming out, it's not necessarily guaranteed that all the wine in the barrel is going to come out. But when you make a contraption with a tube using the force of physics, it's going to force out all the wine into the cup. And if the guy touches that stream or that tube, he's going to answer all the wine in the barrel. Here's the picture. If a Jew and a guy, here we go, a nice picture. A Jew and a guy are drinking wine from a straw. So they're allowed to do that. However, that's a problem. V'hanimi need to call them pasuk Yisrof. The Jew stops first. I will call them pasuk goy. If the goy stops first and the Jew continues to drink from the straw, loy, that's no good because we are afraid. Right over here, when the goy stops, he's going to spit some wine from his mouth back into the cup, and the Jew is going to be drinking yayin esach. Rabba Baravuna ikla beirash kelusa. Rabba Bahuna was by the resh kelusa. Apparently, wine was a very important beverage for health. He allowed the Jew and the goy to drink from kosher wine, of course, with two straws. The goy drinking from one straw, the Jew drinking from another straw, and everything is okay. We go to Ayin Gimel. Ikidame Rabba Baravhuna Gufa Ishte Bekinish Konin. Rabba Baravhuna did it. It wasn't that he permitted it; he actually did it himself. So it's not that he permitted the Reish Galus to do it. He did it himself. Rabba Baravhuna was drinking with a goy from a straw in the same cup. Obviously, Rabba Baravhuna made sure to finish drinking first before the goy finished sucking from the straw. Otherwise, there's a problem of Yain Esech, as we just discussed. Okay, a good Erev Shabbos and a good Shabbos.